I've said for years now, one of the most evil companies on the planet is Disney. I imagine the board of directors is a who's who of supervillains. You probably got Mickey Mouse right next to Lucifer in that seat. It is always shocking to see just how low they'll stoop for the sake of a couple extra doubloons. They're like a real-world Umbrella Corp, but instead of manufacturing the T virus that turns people into zombies, they manufacture the D virus that turns people into Disney Defenders, where they'll always fight their PR battles for them and constantly empty their piggy bank for anything Disney slaps its fucking logo on. It's sickening, even when they are completely in the wrong. I've been following a story for the last couple days, and I imagine some of you have as well. It's a very sad story about a woman who had an allergic reaction and died after eating at a Disney Springs restaurant. And the holly jolly old assholes at Disney are arguing that because the husband signed up for a Disney Plus trial in 2019, he agreed to terms that would basically turn this lawsuit into toilet paper. To any sensible human being on the planet with a functioning frontal lobe, you're probably asking yourself, how does a Disney Plus trial at all have any grounds for this lawsuit when the allergic reaction happened at one of Disney's parks? It's not like his wife had an allergic reaction to the dog shit Disney Plus is feeding them. She passed away because of a complete failure from the restaurant. It is entirely their fault. So the couple chose to eat at a restaurant called Raglan Road Irish Pub, and they told the waiter that she had severe allergies to dairy and nuts, and she was unequivocally assured the food would be allergen-free, and they chose this restaurant because it is apparently very accommodating to people with allergies. So when the order arrived, there was no allergen-free flags, so they inquired again if it was allergen-free, and were once again assured that they were safe for her to consume. 45 minutes later, she had an allergic reaction. Even after administering an EpiPen, she had difficulty breathing, collapsed, and later passed away. And the husband is rightfully trying to sue Disney for this because it is a colossal fuck-up here. And Disney's just dancing on her grave. They're just spitting on her memory by trying to toss out the wrongful death lawsuit, by trying to say that the husband signed up for a Disney Plus account in 2019, which has language that prevents them from being sued in this manner. It'd have to be through arbitration, meaning it's overseen by a neutral third party and not a judge. And also, he had apparently agreed to similar terms when purchasing a park ticket online in September 2023. So this opened up a massive can of worms here about all of the sneaky, scummy shit companies sneak into their terms when you sign up for services or if you purchase things online. You know that shit that every human being on the planet skips through with agreeing to terms and conditions? Yeah, it turns out sometimes there's some really awful shit in there. I wanted to wait before talking about this because I've been talking to a lawyer about it because I was very curious if there is any legs at all for Disney to stand on here. But I just couldn't wait because I've already seen a couple of conversations about why it's entirely this couple's fault for gambling with their food allergies. The state of the world is so fucking saddening. How is it a gamble? So she was allergic to dairy and nuts, and this was made abundantly clear to the staff of a restaurant that is well known for being accommodating to allergies. Apparently this restaurant has a commitment to being very conscious of allergens. So they chose this restaurant for that reason and made it very clear multiple times that dairy and nuts were a problem. And they were assured multiple times that the food they had ordered was not going to pose any problems for that allergy. They did everything they could. That's not gambling, you absolute Cro-Magnon that are arguing that it's actually their fault, Disney's blameless. This is what I'm talking about with the D virus. People falling over themselves to try and take bullets for Disney. It is a fuck up from the restaurant and by extension, Disney. I know they have more money than God, but even still, this is such an outrageous claim to be making because signing up for a Disney Plus trial should have no effect on what happens at a Disney park. That's not related at all. It shouldn't extend to that. Just imagine if that was normal. Let's say you're on a Boeing flight and all the screws on the flight all of a sudden just spontaneously pop off like a water balloon exploding, and all of a sudden your plane just disassembles itself in the air and you die. Everyone dies on board because the Boeing flight malfunctions, as Boeing flights are known to do these days. Well, what if Boeing said, that's a real shame about that, but, you know, we can't be held liable for this because every single one of them, when purchasing their tickets online, agreed that no matter what happens, It's going to have to go to arbitration, so sorry about that, but really condolences. I am super confident that wouldn't work. You can't just have this blanket statement of, whatever happens, not our fault, and you agreed to it. See, you said right here, doesn't matter, you're fucked. Like, that can't work. And from what I've heard from a couple of lawyers that have talked about it online, as well as a couple conversations I've had, this doesn't really protect Disney, but this has become so common in contracts as a way of trying to weasel big corporations out of liability. But it's still scary because it does give them some leverage to fight on. It gives them an angle, and with the amount of money they can pour into defending themselves, it's going to make it very hard for normal people to fight back, even when Disney is 100% responsible for the tragedy that occurred. But at least Disney's very apologetic here. We're deeply saddened by the family's loss and understand their grief. Given that this restaurant is neither owned nor operated by Disney, we are merely defending ourselves against the plaintiff's attorney's attempt to include us in their lawsuit against the restaurant. They're fundamentally going, oh, we don't know those guys. They just use our land. We're kind of just like a landlord. We are not associated with those scoundrels over there at all. No, not us. Nope. You're coming after the wrong guy, bub. Go after them. Not our fault. And if you do want to go after us, you can't really because your Disney Plus free trial from 2019. Did you forget about that? Eek, sorry. Now, the lawyer representing the family called it absurd and preposterous, saying that the case is based on the incredible argument that any person who signs up for an account, even free trials that are not extended beyond the trial period, will have forever waived the right to a jury trial, which is pure insanity. And they also argue that Mr. Piccolo, the husband, agreed to the terms of use for himself. But he's now acting on behalf of his late wife, who never agreed to the terms, which I think is a really strong point. I think the lawyer is right here. His wife never signed up for the Disney Plus trial, thus she shouldn't be subjected to the fucking shackle and chains that apparently every Disney Plus subscriber is now succumbed to. The lawyer then goes on to say, the notion that terms agreed to by a consumer when creating a Disney Plus free trial account would forever bar that consumer's right to a jury trial in any dispute with any Disney affiliate or subsidiary is so outrageously unreasonable and unfair as to shock the judicial conscience. It really is exceptionally evil, and from what I've read here, it's not exclusive to Disney. So apparently there was even a time where they were going to get close to protecting consumers from this kind of shit with like these arbitration clauses that get snuck into contracts that you sign up for unknowingly, because it is unreasonable to expect anyone to read all 65 pages of every terms and condition for every service you sign up for. There's no human being on the planet that has the chutzpah to sit through and read all of that. But apparently that ruling that was going to protect consumers got fucked in Congress. So it's just, corporations really do operate on a different level than everything and everyone else. So no matter how much they are pushed to stop this shady shit, they can always pay their way out of it so it never actually sees the light of day and they can continue to do the scummiest things. Another quote here is, most of the companies in the U.S. require mandatory arbitration and allows them to, by and large, cut off much relief. Companies love it, but individuals who are harmed by these corporations really don't have any access to any form that would give them relief, as that's a real problem. It just limits consumers' options. It protects companies by fucking consumers in the face. The Supreme Court's view is, if you don't like it, don't sign it. Which is a super easy position to have for all the troglodytes in Supreme Court, because they're so ancient and archaic that these geriatric fossils don't sign up for anything or any service because they don't even know what a goddamn computer is. They're still learning about that mystical, magical thing called the cyberspace and the internet. So they don't even know what the fuck this is. All they need to know is what the corporations tell them they need to know. But every normal person in the world all has different services that they have to sign up for. I'm not talking about just like entertainment services. Like, no one needs to have like a Netflix account or anything, or Epic Games account or something. But even just like, I remember 10 years ago when I was in my apartment, there was an online sign-up I had to do that had pages upon pages upon pages of terms and conditions. And I didn't read through all of them. I feel like most people don't read through all of them. Banking online, all types of services that are literally required for most normal people all have tons and tons of terms and conditions, and they are probably sneaking in some truly heinous shit. And this story right here helps shine a light on some of it and how unreasonable it is. And the Supreme Court saying, if you don't like it, don't sign up for it, is just, that's not realistic. It's just not at all. But yeah, anyway, this shit is super horrible. Disney super sucks. That's about it. See ya. Raise your hand if you've ever heard of the restaurant Panera Bread. Now, I hope none of you raised your hand, because if you did, you'd be an absolute buffoon, you straight up imbecile. I can't see if you do that. But I'm assuming a lot of you have heard of Panera Bread before. It's very popular. But did you know that it's now responsible for at least 2 deaths because of its menu item, charged lemonade? This is a fascinating, concerning, and pretty sad story that I just had to talk about, because with 2 deaths under its belt, the charged lemonade is almost as dangerous as just eating Tide Pods. Now, while 2 deaths doesn't seem like a lot, statistically speaking, that's from 1 menu item on just innocent people whose only crime was looking for a tasty beverage. Like, this is very alarming stuff. So yeah, it may not be like piling up corpses to the sky or anything, but 2 people dying from just drinking lemonade from the menu is a problem. Now, when I first saw the headlines, I assumed it was like contaminated product or something, like something must have gone wrong with the lemonade. I thought it'd be like a, turns out in their charged lemonade, the secret ingredient was pink sauce, so people were dying of botulism and cringe or something. But it's actually not that. Their charged lemonade is a caffeinated drink that was improperly advertised, so people that shouldn't be consuming caffeine, or like huge amounts of caffeine, were consuming the charged lemonade, and unfortunately 2 people did die from it. And it is a lot of caffeine in the charged lemonade. It's not like just a couple tiddlywinks worth of caffeine, it's a lot. Now, the most recent death is that of a 46-year-old man from Florida whose family has now filed a wrongful death and negligence lawsuit against Panera. Now, his name is David Brown. He had high blood pressure and didn't consume energy drinks, but in the lawsuit, he said he believed the charged lemonade was safe since it was not advertised as an energy drink. It was offered in the same place as the restaurant chain's non-caffeinated or less caffeinated drinks, which is obviously a huge problem because there are people with underlying conditions that should not be consuming a ton of caffeine. This is the perfect example of that. That's why you need to properly label these beverages, because they can be legitimately dangerous to people that aren't aware of what's in them. According to the lawsuit, on October 9th, Brown had the drink 3 times during a visit to Panera Bread. Apparently this was part of like their endless sipping offer. I don't know what it's called at Panera, fucking Super Sippers Deluxe something, the sip package, where you can get like refills, multiple refills. So I'm assuming he got this refilled 3 times in Florida, and on his walk home he suffered cardiac arrest and died a short time later. He had ordered a Panera charged lemonade at least 7 times over the course of 2 weeks from September to October. An extremely sad situation that was easily avoidable. David Brown knew about his underlying condition and did everything he could to avoid anything that would cause him problems, but he simply didn't know that the Panera charged lemonade was a highly caffeinated drink. And unfortunately, it led to his death. Now, I do think this information is worth sharing here. Brown had a chromosomal deficiency disorder, developmental delays, some blurred vision, and a mild intellectual disability. He had worked at Publix for 17 years and would regularly go to Panera after work for meals as many as 3 times a week because, according to the lawsuit, he said the chain advertised as being a healthy alternative to other restaurants. This is something I see a lot of people say. This is a sentiment shared by many that they perceive Panera as being a healthy restaurant. And unfortunately, I too once believed this, but that's just not true. Panera is not healthier than most other chains. It's just genuinely not. If you actually look at the nutrition facts of what they serve, it's just as unhealthy as pretty much anything else you'd find elsewhere. You could probably find a Wendy's meal that might have more nutrition than some of the macros that Panera's offering. It is not necessarily a healthy place. It has some healthy options, sure, but so does fucking McDonald's too. Panera is not a healthy restaurant, especially not its soups. Its soups, some of them still have trans fat. I thought that shit got outlawed by the Geneva Convention, but no, like their broccoli cheddar soup does still have fucking trans fat in it. So it's not a great place to be eating if you're looking to be eating healthy, and it's certainly not a safe place to be drinking, I guess, with the charged lemonade out here like a fucking assassin taking people down. So I did want to just briefly mention that. Now let's talk about the other death that is being blamed on Panera's charged lemonade. A 21-year-old university student named Sarah Katz died of cardiac arrest after drinking the beverage in 2022. She was diagnosed with a congenital long QT syndrome type 1 when she was 5 years old, so she had an abnormal heart rhythm, which could be life-threatening. And according to the lawsuit, the charged lemonade was not advertised as an energy drink at the time that Katz ordered it. So Katz's family claimed that she didn't know that the drink had high levels of caffeine because it was inadequately labeled, and alleged her death is a direct result of drinking it. Which I think is a very fair assessment. I imagine that a highly caffeinated beverage like the charged lemonade would be extremely bad for someone with her condition. So I do think that is a huge component of what led to her death. And according to this lawsuit as well, Panera just wasn't advertising the charged lemonade as being like a super caffeinated drink when they should. According to what I can find, the caffeine levels on the small are about 260, whereas if you get the large, it's 390 milligrams of caffeine, which is a fucking ton. And once again, the claim is being made that it was offered side by side with all of the store's non-caffeinated or less caffeinated drinks. It was not advertised as an energy drink, nor were there any warnings to consumers, which is completely unacceptable, because again, there are just people that can't drink that. But they wouldn't know that they can't drink it if it's not properly labeled as being a highly caffeinated drink, thus led to these situations, allegedly. It's just so easily avoidable if they had just said, hey look, charged lemonade, packed out the fucking wazoo with caffeine. Have your entire week's worth of caffeine allowance in a single sip. A goddamn chug jug of rat poison would do less damage to your body than the Panera charged lemonade. And especially with like the refills, what a diabolical combination. Now, Panera has responded with the most expected response. Panera expresses our deep sympathy for Mr. Brown's family. Based on our investigation, we believe his unfortunate passing was not caused by one of the company's products. We view this lawsuit, which was filed by the same law firm as a previous claim, to be equally without merit. Panera stands firmly by the safety of our products. It's not so much the safety of the lemonade, because most people can have 1 or 2 lemonades, though if you go to like 3, 4, even 5 charged lemonades, God rest your soul, it's gonna look like a crime scene. Your fucking heart will explode with this amount of caffeine. If you have like 5 charged lemonades from Panera, you better start writing down like your last wishes, because you're not making it out alive. So it's not so much like the product is unsafe to consume, it's that it wasn't properly labeled or properly conveyed to consumers how much caffeine was in there, so people that are sensitive to caffeine or have underlying conditions were drinking it, and it potentially led to these 2 deaths. Now, in the case of Sarah Katz, her friend said that she was very aware of her health and was very vigilant to avoid caffeine. She never drank coffee, so this indicates that she would be very much in tune with avoiding the charged lemonade had she known that there was so much caffeine in it. So Panera told ABC that there is still an ongoing investigation, but they did say we were saddened to learn last week about the tragic passing of Sarah Katz. While our investigation is ongoing, out of an abundance of caution, we have enhanced our existing caffeine disclosure for these beverages at our bakery cafes, on our website, and on the Panera app. Which is the whole point. You didn't do enough to make sure consumers were educated on how much caffeine was in there, or even if it was a highly caffeinated drink in the first place, if it was surrounded by other non-caffeinated or less caffeinated drinks. Like, you can't just fucking sneak it in there in between, like, the orange juice and the water. People are going to make the assumption, like, oh, this is probably just some kind of wacky lemonade. Most people wouldn't draw the conclusion, like, oh, this is probably a 400 fucking milligram bomb of caffeine. So it's just a matter of you needed to more effectively communicate to consumers that this is extremely caffeinated because it's dangerous not to. So yeah, buyers beware out there for any Panera enthusiasts. Maybe avoid the charged lemonade just in case. Just wanted to go over this a little bit. Pretty sad situation all around though. That's about it. So yeah. Well, yes, I actually did just finish playing pickup basketball on this sacred Thursday night. Thank you for asking. How did I play? Well, terribly, actually. I played horribly. I almost immediately pulled my shoulder, which at my age is very painful. And then my old man brittle bones started creaking a lot and a fly flew in my mouth. But that didn't stop me from putting on an absolute shooting nightmare. I went like 4 for 12 and 0 for 2 from the 3. It was bad. And also, the fly in my mouth paranoid me because I'm a hypochondriac. I couldn't stop imagining Ozzy and Drix inside of my body fighting against this fly in there. It wasn't my best showing. But can you stop talking about basketball so much, please? That's not what we're here for. Goodness gracious, you're a real chatty Cathy. What the fuck? What we're here to discuss is a really weird criminal I learned about on stream last night, and I've been thinking about him ever since. There's a case going around about a criminal in Essex who has done nothing but steal pacifiers from literal babies. Wait, what? Man, 23, charged with snatching dummies from babies in Essex. Dummies? You guys call pacifiers dummies? It just sounds like you're insulting your kid. Why not just call him a pacifier? A man will appear in court charged with snatching dummies out of the mouths of babies. What a cartoonishly evil plan. Does he at least sell them or something? Like, what's the motivation besides just making a baby cry? Josh Gilder was arrested on Monday on suspicion of theft from a person, robbery, and using threatening behavior to cause alarm and distress. This happened on 4 occasions, apparently. The serial pacifier robber, burglar. What does he do with them? Does he just take them out and run away, or does he take them out and put them back? Like, what does he do? Oh, here we go. We got some more information. All right. The story just took a really interesting twist. So according to this, well, according to her, he uses the dummy to soothe himself. So what he's doing, and this is a revolting thought, he is taking the pacifiers out of babies' mouths and then sucking on them himself. That is fucking gross. Holy shit. He said he would take the dummy and then go sit in a tent and use the dummy, describing the thefts as purely acquisition. So acquisitive. Goulder also admitted causing harassment, alarm, and distress to a police officer the day he was arrested. He told the officer, "If my stuff gets broken, I swear I'll kill you." He denied 3 charges of assault relating to 3 of the 5 children who he took dummies from. Still shouldn't be stealing them from babies. Bit of a hot take there from me, but, you know, I'll say it with my chest. Stealing from a baby is... well, that's pretty low. You know, I'm just gonna say, he's a jerk. He's a bit of a jerk. When police were initially looking for this guy, they released this photo hoping that someone recognized him, when it's just a photo of someone's back with a hoodie on. But I mean, I guess it worked out in the end because they did apprehend him. He was taking candy from literal babies, pretty much, and they eventually did arrest him for it. But I really like the idea that someone sees this and they're like, "Oh my god, that hoodie! Wait a minute, that frame! I know exactly who that is! That's my buddy Josh!" And who knows, maybe that's exactly how it happened. But yeah, they did apprehend him, and the whole story is very baffling. That's a odd crime, for sure. But I want to give you a little bonus crime that I learned about on stream last night. Actually, you know what? I'll give you 2, because we went down a little bit of a rabbit hole with weird crimes. So this next one is about a serial mannequin pisser who's still on the loose, so beware of any mannequins. They might be marked with urine somewhere out there. So just sleep with one eye open. I work at Target, and one day we found that somebody had peed on a mannequin. Turns out he'd been hitting other Targets in Minnesota and peeing on mannequins. The guy has not yet been caught. Don't worry, I'm on the case. I just looked up urinating on mannequins, and the first thing that came up was a Wikipedia page called Mannequin Piss. Is this him? Does he have his own Wikipedia page? And here's a urinating mannequin, which is an art piece. I think I found the culprit for your phantom pisser that keeps coming in and urinating on the mannequins. I think it's this guy. Got him. And this next criminal is not some unknown menace. This is actually a very well-known criminal. Burger King. And the crime, horrible food. But this time around, what they were guilty of is a promotional marketing campaign that led to the death of a few children, infants, during their Pokemon promotion of 1999. I don't know how many of you knew this, but I was completely unaware that this ever happened, so I learned about it on stream last night, and I thought this was a really weird thing that happened back then that I haven't really heard too many people talk about. Have you heard about the Pokemon ball toy that killed a bunch of kids? What? Reflecting on the Burger King Pokemon disaster of 1999. What? I've never heard of this. Some of the most iconic toys of the 90s showed up on greasy trays across the country, but perhaps the biggest frenzy arrived with a series of Pokemon collectibles from Burger King at the turn of the millennium. Pokemania hit a fever pitch in 1999, and the frenzy had a body count. Time magazine helped introduce the Japanese imported phenomenon known as Pokemon to the mainstream. Okay. At the very center of their page, a space normally occupied by heads of state, religious leaders, and business magnates, Poliwhirl leaped out at the reader. I actually vaguely remember this cover. While parents, journalists, and psychologists were mulling the attitudinal impacts of the fad, a far more banal Pokedanger was emerging. On December 11th, 1999, 13-month-old Kira suffocated to death in Northern California. A Pokemon toy from Burger King Kids Meal was believed to be the cause. The company had begun a massive Pokemon promotion in connection with the Pokemon the First movie, which debuted on November 10th. The 56-day promotion, one of the largest in history, was intended to run from early November to end of December. The Kids Meal prize during that 2-month period was one of 57 different Pokemon toys. Making the promotion all the more exciting was the fact that the toys were encapsulated within the immediately familiar red and white orb of a Pokeball. Burger King had plans to distribute over 25 million toys in this clever format for free with any Kids Meal purchased.
Enjoy.
She's even in body armor. They knew this was dangerous. That's a huge promo. Did they have all 151? How? Damn, Burger King used to go hard. As far as Kira's death was concerned, the toy itself, as it turned out, wasn't the problem. She died after one half of the plastic Pokeball, measuring just under 3 inches in diameter, became attached to her face. She had somehow gotten it stuck over her nose and mouth, forming an airtight seal. Holy shit. Her mother took a shower for about 20 minutes, and when she emerged, her daughter was dead. Spokesperson for Equity Marketing, the toy maker that had partnered with Burger King, would later state that the toy meets or exceeds all federal safety guidelines. And Charles Nicholas, a spokesperson for Burger King, argued it was not concluded that the ball was the cause. I mean, it seems like a completely freak incident, but I mean, the ball was literally the cause. But it's not the design's fault, I don't think, right? Like that's truly a freak thing, from the sound of it. 10 days later, on December 23rd, it happened again. An 18-month-old girl in Kansas almost suffocated. By the time her father pried the half of a Pokeball from her face, the girl's lips had turned blue. When we found out about the first death, there was a realization that this could be a huge national concern. This was the worst-case scenario. A major fast food chain, not just a toy store, distributing these toys by the millions. How is it happening, though? It doesn't look like that'd be a really easy situation to find yourself in. And also, who's letting 13-month-old and 18-month-old babies eat Burger King alone? Also, what do they eat from Burger King? Aren't you still basically on mush? Maybe not at 18 months, but 13 months? When do you stop having, like, mush? When's the cutoff period? Why is every major fast food controversy about Burger King? Because Burger King it's actually a scourge. Burger King needs to just be shut down. They make the worst fucking food imaginable. Burger King have come around now, but we did have to push them. Oh, they have a recall commercial. It was such a different time back then. They had to make another advertisement in order to advertise the recall. Nowadays, they'll just make a tweet, be like, hey, we're sorry we killed some kids. Like, what more is there to say? We're sorry. Like every game dev that comes out right now when they release a pile of shit. January 25th, 2000, a month after the recall began, 4-month-old Zachary Jones was found dead in his crib in Indianapolis, Indiana. He too had been suffocated by a Pokeball. It's hard to believe that you go to get the kids something to eat, you bring home a lethal toy. How is a 4-month-old eating Burger King? And unmonitored by their parents? Now, of course, there clearly is something wrong with the design here, I think. Maybe the pictures aren't doing it justice for what the Pokeball actually looks like. But what the fuck? This is a 4-month-old with Burger King? And no supervision? Holy shit, that's a recipe for disaster even if it wasn't Burger King lethal Pokeballs. Are they just clipping it around their nose like a pin? So from the way it describes it, it seems like what was happening is the baby would be playing with the Pokeball and the half would get caught on its face like a fighter pilot, basically, with their mask. And it created an airtight seal that suffocated them. This is another one of those sad situations where I have to admit Twitch chat was right and I look like a bumbling imbecile now. About a month ago, chat was trying to convince me that there was a viral TikTok challenge that was getting people to steal cars and sometimes crash them for views, and I wrote that off as a bunch of baloney. I said, I doubt that's an actual trend. Probably just one stupid asshole did it, called it a challenge, and no one ever followed. But it turns out I was wrong. Not only is this boogeyman real, but it actually has led to the death of 4 teenagers this week. Somehow, the challenges continue to get more and more brain dead and dangerous. This generation of Tide Pod eating and hurting yourself for views on TikTok is reaching an absolutely absurd level of wildness. So, it's called the Kia Challenge. It's also not really a challenge, it's more of just a ruin your life speedrun tutorial. Basically, the only goal to be completed with the Kia Challenge is to steal a car and post yourself stealing the car on TikTok. It honestly sounds like it's something made by the CIA to catch potential car thieves. You're fucking instructing them to post evidence of their crime online, making it the easiest slam dunk arrest ever. But anyway, the Kia Challenge was videos that were teaching others how to steal Kias and Hyundais specifically, because of a massive vulnerability in many models from Kia and Hyundai. For Kia vehicles, many of them built from 2011 to 2021 have this problem, and for Hyundais, those built from 2015 to 2021 also have this problem. I'm not here to teach you how to do it, I'm not your Thieves Guild sensei, but I will tell you, it is shockingly fucking easy. It's mind-blowing how stupid and simple it is. These cars are more insecure than me going through puberty. They basically steal themselves, honestly. It takes seconds, like actual seconds. Not even like mini seconds, like maybe 2 or 3 tops. It's fucking baffling, honestly. So, since this challenge went viral, there's been this massive increase in thefts with Kia and Hyundais. And this week it led to 4 teenagers dying. In a few of the Kia Challenge videos that are still available online, the people in them are driving recklessly, and in a couple of them even crash. However, this one happened to be a fatal single-car accident, killing 4 of the passengers here, and now the driver's facing a felony charge. Pretty sad story all around, and it all stems from a little TikTok trend. Just when you thought we'd seen the dumbest trends from that platform with like devious licks and shit like that, they've gone even harder now. But I think it's very important we discuss what a massive fuck up this is from Kia and Hyundai. How in the world, 2,000 years after the death of Jesus, with all of the technology we have now, how can you have this massive vulnerability? It's obviously a massive problem here, so much so that they have now been served a class action lawsuit as of late September, because these vehicles that they manufactured during the time periods I listed don't have immobilizers on them, which as I understand is standard among pretty much all the other automobiles out there. I'm not much of a car guy. I don't know too much about that shit. I know more about the anatomy of a fucking alien than I would a car's engine and what goes into vehicles. But according to the lawsuit, the engine immobilizers are crucial, and they've come at Kia and Hyundai for not having them, stating that they valued profits over safety and security of their customers. And it also outlines just how big of a problem it's become. It is just an absolute epidemic with all of these car thefts with the Kia and Hyundai models here, and it all ties back to the lack of engine immobilizer, as I understand it. And it seems like this was a massive blunder here, because all the extra doubloons they were able to squeeze out of their profit margins is all about to whittle away here and probably end in some net loss with this class action lawsuit. It's a huge deal, obviously. And just a really sad trend all around, since it ended in the death of 4 teenagers who probably wouldn't have stolen this car if they weren't fed the information on how to do it, as well as also fed the idea that by doing it they'd gain TikTok clout. I believe at the time, and according to this article, the Kia Challenge category on TikTok, like the trend where all of these things lived, had 5.9 billion views across all of the videos there. Now, of course, not all of them were views on videos of people actually stealing the cars. A lot of them were people talking about how dangerous the challenge is. But there was, of course, quite a few videos actually showcasing just the blatant theft of Kias and Hyundais in there, in the Kia Boys area. And just fucking awful stuff. TikTok cracked down on it and banned those accounts and shut all of the Kia Boys, Kia Challenge stuff down, but even still, you can still find quite a few of them, and it clearly does still exist in some capacity because this only happened this week. So it's still a rather popular idea, even if not like a direct trend on TikTok anymore. So just wanted to talk about this a little bit since this was just a situation where I was just absolutely wrong when Twitch chat was bringing me some new information here that I just refused to believe. It was so outlandish I didn't believe it. I didn't think anyone would ever actually start a trend of just crime, and I was proven wrong. And it's very sad. Not sad about me being proven wrong, just the actual subject matter here being sad. That's about it. See ya. I'm not TMZ and I'm not your school's local newspaper, but I do want to actually talk about a news story today that I'm sure you're all aware of by now. Alec Baldwin fatally shot cinematographer Halyna Hutchins on the set of his new movie Rust. He also caught the director in the crossfire as well, who was shot and injured but is okay. Unfortunately, Hutchins died. It was a tragic accident where a prop gun Alec Baldwin was handling actually had a live round in it, which ultimately ended in someone's death. I first heard about this minutes after it happened. I was streaming at the time, and I swear to God, the people in my chat are like the fastest on-scene reporters to everything. If there was a nuclear missile launch somewhere in the world, I would probably know about it before the US government because my chat would fucking tell me. Somehow, they just have like the cutting-edge information the second it happens. It honestly felt like whoever was telling me about this in Twitch chat was actually on the set when it was happening. So I've been following this very closely over the last couple days, and this is more than just a tragic accident. This is gross negligence and a disturbing look into how little movies care about the safety of the crew. I'll get into that in a minute, but just in case you don't know what happened, Alec Baldwin is in an upcoming movie called Rust, and I don't know what the movie's about. I haven't looked that up because I think that's the least important part about this whole thing, but I guess in the movie he plays some kind of gun-wielding badass. He's playing fucking Doom guy, so he's running around akimbo guns and going crazy because guns are a big part of the movie, it seems. And in one of the shots they were doing, he was handling the gun and he shot and killed the cinematographer and injured the director. It was supposed to be a prop gun without live rounds, obviously. You know, sorry to hit you with a cold water and tell you Santa Claus isn't real, but movies are fake. Those guns you see in the movies aren't shooting real bullets or anything, at least they're not supposed to. But in this case, the gun Alec Baldwin was handling had a real round in it. Now, a lot of people immediately compared this to the tragic death of Bruce Lee's son on the set of The Crow. Brandon Lee died because of a malfunctioning prop weapon where a projectile actually did come out of what was supposed to be a blank and it killed him. A lot of people compared it to that, but this is totally different. This is so much worse. So I read this article today because this is still a developing story. Everyone's trying to figure out what the fuck happened here. Like the Tooth Fairy came in and delivered a real round into a prop gun. How did this happen, you know? And so the investigation's been launched, and apparently the entire filming of this movie was a fucking disaster. Crew members weren't allowed to stay nearby, so they had to drive 50 miles each day just to get to set. The conditions were abominable, which is obviously leading to them being miserable, so a lot of them wanting to quit and just wanting better conditions, and in response to that, they just started hiring non-union workers to replace the union workers. The fucking prisoners on Alcatraz Island were treated with more respect than the crew on Rust. It sounds like working on Rust would have been worse than working as a custodian in hell. At least maybe in hell the demons would have treated you better than the Rust team did. I would have rather been licking gas station toilet seats clean than go work on Rust. But not only were the conditions absolutely horrible and unacceptable to a damn near criminal degree, I would argue, but it was also like going to an active war zone every time you stepped on the set of the movie. Because this wasn't the only time there was an accidental discharge of the firearms on set. It happened 3 times, allegedly. Now, I don't know if it means that a live round was fired each time, or if it just means the gun wasn't fully cold. When they called cold gun, it was supposed to mean like there was nothing in there. So it could mean like the other 3 times it was like blank rounds that fired. But even still, that is a massive mistake to make. You call cold gun and a blank fires is still very dangerous. You have to be in control. You have to know what the fuck is in the guns. There were multiple discharges of firearms throughout filming. So it's like that scene in Zoolander where they're having like a fucking gasoline fight. Like, they didn't care. They were using like real guns, it seems. It wasn't even like props at that point. They just went to like the local, gun store, just purchased a lot and like, yeah, this will be fine for the movie. We'll just dodge the bullets or some shit. So I guess you just show up the set and every time there's a scene with a gun in it, you have to like be ducking for cover just in case. People just wandering around fucking dual-wielding pistols, firing them to the air like that guy from Looney Tunes, what's his name, Wiley Sharterton, the fucking guy with the beard, Yosemite Sam, just over there fucking blasting into the sky. So obviously the crew didn't feel safe, which led to half a dozen of them leaving just hours before the fatal shooting. Like, all of the signs were there for a disaster, but they were ignored because apparently they were trying to really rush the movie out, so they just didn't care. So I don't know how the fuck, like, a firearm discharges one time and you're not like, holy shit, this is something we really need to, take a hold of, grab by the fucking nutsack and fix. Because that is just that's a recipe for disaster. That is asking for a tragedy, and that's exactly what happened. They were begging for it. Just read this again. Alec Baldwin's stunt double fired 2 rounds in a gun that they said was cold. That shit is not cold. That is clearly not cold. If that's cold, then my cock is 16 inches long. Like, it's unreal. They had so many chances to fix the problem. They had 3 discharges according to that quote there. That means they had multiple opportunities to get things under control and they just didn't. Dude just kicking back, smoking a pipe saying, surely it won't happen a 4th time. Like that was their solution. Like, okay, now that we've got all the bad luck out of the way, now it's smooth sailing here. And then, of course, what happened, Alec Baldwin during his scene, he's supposed to unholster his weapon, and they said the gun was cold, as they did the last time, and it wasn't cold, as it wasn't last time. So he brought it out of his holster, and it fired a live round, which shot and killed Hutchins and injured the director behind her. A completely avoidable tragedy if anyone on set bothered to give a shit about safety. Now, of course, the crew cared about safety, clearly, because they were protesting and they left because they felt so unsafe. But I'm talking about, like, the higher-ups that were in charge of making these decisions and making sure things were safe. They clearly didn't give a fuck. They just kept rushing and cutting corners. And then their solution to everything was, okay, let them leave. We'll replace them and keep using these fucking actual guns. If you can dodge a bullet, we can dodge a lawsuit. So let's really get out there and do our best. I'm obviously not part of the Trust and Safety Board of the United States of America, but I think if, while filming a movie, 3 times your prop guns are called cold, even though they're shooting even blanks, I think you need to really take a moment to reevaluate your crew and get everything under control and maybe start to think like, so there's a problem here. Clearly we're not all on the same page. This department's kind of lacking. Let's fix that. But hey, that's just me. I'm not a director or part of a film board. It's just so fucking sad. And what's even worse is the people on Twitter who are saying Alec Baldwin needs to go to prison for this. Why? It's not his fault. He was told the gun was cold and was just doing the scene as he was instructed. It's not like he went in there like the spirit of vengeance and took the gun and just started shooting people. He was told the gun was cold and he was filming a scene. And unfortunately, the production didn't do a good job of making sure there wasn't a real gun with real bullets on set. I don't even know why that would be there. Again, I'm not like in the film board or the film industry very much, apart from being the world's best actor, but I can't imagine why during any movie you'd need a real magazine of real bullets next to all of your blanks and empty guns. Why is that there? It just doesn't make any sense to me. It seems like something out of like a fucking Hitman mission where you're trying to assassinate someone. Why the fuck would there be real bullets mixed in with all of the fake ones? And it blows my fucking mind. It's crazy. Such a sad and yet entirely avoidable tragedy. I just wanted to talk about it because this story has been truly wild. And I feel horrible for Alec Baldwin. I feel horrible, obviously, for the family of Hutchins and everyone on that crew. Because what a sad set of circumstances and an awful thing that happened. So yeah, anyway, I just wanted to talk about this. That's about it. So yeah. It's been over 24 hours since my last shower. I'm greasy, covered in gamer gunk, and I'm gonna get serious. There's something I want to talk about. Now, my channel has always just been me making things I have fun making, talking about things I want to talk about, joke about shit I want to joke about. I just kind of treat it like a public diary, kind of like Doug's journal from that cartoon Doug, but instead of having a cool alter ego superhero like Quail Man, my alter ego is a fucking sex toy stuntman. But the point I'm making is, I've always just talked about things that I've had on my mind at the time. Now, you probably don't need to be a psychic with a crystal ball to guess what's been on my mind this week with everything that's happened in the country, with the murder of George Floyd at the hands of police officers, as well as all the protests that have come as a result of that, as well as other things that built up to it. Obviously, that's been what I've been thinking about this week. So let me just start by hitting you with a fucking lightning round here, give you the cliff notes of everything I'm feeling. What happened to George Floyd is a fucking deplorable crime, and all officers involved need to be charged to the fullest extent of the law, as well as the first medical examiner that tried to conceal his cause of death. The first medical examiner's autopsy just seemed to want to cover the officer's asshole by saying very vague things to explain it, like they could have had intoxicants in his system, he could have had a pre-existing medical condition that flared up at the exact moment the officer had his knee on his neck, all kinds of just garbage bullshit. Oh, you know, Mr. Floyd may have looked at a picture of marijuana earlier that day, which caused his body to shut down at the exact moment that the officer's knee was on his neck. In fact, while looking at Mr. Floyd's brain, I was able to see that he had a dream the night before he was arrested where he was smoking weed in that dream, so perhaps that dream may have played a role in his death. Just some straight up garbage from the first medical examiner that I think he needs to be charged with trying to conceal the murder. An independent autopsy was just completed today that confirmed that it was the officer's actions that led to his death via asphyxiation. So I think all of that is terrible, obviously. Now, for the protests, I 100% support the protest. I 100% support the Black Lives Matter movement and the message that they're trying to send and trying to change the systemic racism. I think it's a huge problem that needs to be addressed, and I think the protests and all of that is great. I think the Black Lives Matter movement and all the protests we're seeing this week can really be the start of some very positive change to a system that has been truly terrible for a lot of people for a long time. I mean, shit, people are more afraid of the fucking police officer these days than the boogeyman. If you want to scare your children, you don't tell them that the boogeyman's coming if they don't eat their vegetables. You tell them that they're going to call the police. That's 10 times as fucking scary for people these days, and that's not right. The people that are supposed to protect and serve are the people that people are most fearful of. That's just absolutely terrible. So I 100% stand by the movement, and I stand by everyone out there protesting, and I 100% agree that things need to change. It's, you know, this absolutely was a necessity. This needed to happen. Police brutality has gone way too fucking far for way too fucking long, and it's about time that people come together and say enough is enough. Do I think every single cop in the country is a piece of shit? Absolutely not. There are good cops, but there's a fucking ton of bad cops, as these protests are showing us. These cops are going straight up barbaric in some situations, just fucking pepper spraying people in drive-bys, going through doing like 360 behind the back pepper spray out of their fucking police window. They're macing children, shooting people in the eyes that aren't even protesting with rubber bullets. That fucking 2 people have lost their eyes from what I've seen just from being around protests. There was a man smoking a cigarette nearby who got shot for no reason. Like, just crazy shit from the police that is showing there is a ton of bad police officers, which we all knew. But there are good ones too, so I don't say every single cop is bad. I don't believe that, not at all. But there is a lot of bad ones, and a lot of things need to change when it comes to police. There needs to be reform. Now, I'm sure many of you have realized by now, but I'm not a politically charged guy. I don't fucking do political content because A, I think, you know, political content is boring, and B, I just don't like where politics is these days. It's mainly like football teams where you choose a team to root for and then ignore bad things on that side just to say a huge supporter of that team because you're a super fan of that team and you just ignore anything bad. And I don't agree with that. For me personally, I have a set of ideals and beliefs, and I support things that go in line with that, and I don't like things that go against it, which is typically why on an issue, I talk about bad things on both sides of the issue, which is apparently a bad thing that people hate these days. They call it centrists on Twitter, I think, and it's just constantly shit on. That shit is fucking blasted harder than a fleshlight. Like, if you're a centrist or you talk about issues on two sides, you are immediately discredited as a human being, which I don't really understand. Why would you encourage people to be like a brainwashed zombie to go to one side or the other and then ignore bad things and only talk about bad things against the other side? Like, why the fuck would you want that? Just to be constantly swallowing shit without ever questioning it? You know, I think it's important to talk about and be reasonable about both things, you know, everything around a topic, as opposed to just what goes in line with what team you chose to support, you know what I mean? Now, all of this to say that what's happening right now, I think goes well above politics. This is not some political only issue. This is something that is just so beyond politics and so important, which is why I wanted to talk about it. Now, typically with things I support, I keep it to myself. I keep that shit private, whether it be financial donations to certain causes or anything like that, charities, people, or just things I support in general. I keep that to myself because I don't want to publicize it and accidentally, you know, just have someone blindly follow my set of ideals. I want people to come to their own conclusions and make their own decisions on what's important to them. However, in this case, I wanted to talk about this and show my support because for this cause, I think it's extremely important that everyone knows that there's so many people backing this message and this movement, because it is a super important thing that absolutely needs to be addressed and absolutely needs to have action taken on it. There needs to be police reform, there needs to be a lot of changes because there is a lot of fucking problems. Now this next thing is actually something I posted about on Twitter, looting. I don't think looting is a good thing. Apparently that's a controversial thing to say right now, but yeah, I think looting is bad. I don't know why people are making excuses for the looting. It's not even the protesters that are looting. It's people that are hijacking the movement to just cause destruction and steal things for their own personal gain. There's literally discords of people that are coordinating to get U-Hauls together, go to where protests are happening, and just robbing nearby stores. They don't care about George Floyd, and they don't care about the movement or the message. They're just there to steal shit and cause destruction, and I don't know why people on Twitter are defending that. Destroying and looting these small family-owned businesses are doing nothing to help voices be heard. Yes, I know AutoZone, Target, and all that has been looted and burnt down and shit. Those are big multi-billion-dollar companies, I get that. But it's not like they're hurt from it. What you've hurt is the people that were employed by those businesses. And yes, they can rebuild. I know everyone's saying, you know, items can be replaced, lives can't. That's true. But they also shouldn't even come to that where items need to be replaced because it's not helping. A lot of small businesses, mostly small businesses from what I've seen, are the ones that are getting destroyed and looted. Of course, there's the most popular example of the man who was opening his bar that was absolutely demolished, but luckily people did donate to his GoFundMe to rebuild it, but who knows when he can actually rebuild that and get his dream back off the ground. That's still going to take a lot of time, even with that financial support. And I don't see why targeting his bar helped anything. It just hurt him. It's just hurting the community. In my city specifically, there was this great Vietnamese restaurant that I'd eaten at multiple times called Saigon Bay Vietnamese Restaurant. It was owned and operated by a family of 4 for the last 4 years, and during a Tampa looting session it was burnt down and destroyed, as well as a few other buildings nearby. And I just have to ask why. Like, what the fuck did that accomplish? It's not like by burning that down, anything was solved. It's not like the people in power are going to be like, holy shit, we were ignoring this problem, but now that they've targeted this Vietnamese restaurant and destroyed it, now we have to listen. Fucking love that Vietnamese restaurant. Okay, now it's time to get serious. It didn't do anything. What happened is it just ruined that entire family's lives that they built up over the course of 4 years that they put everything into. Again, I know this wasn't the protesters that did this, by the way. I want to make that clear. I'm well aware it's not real protesters doing this. It's very evil people that are taking advantage of this situation to cause chaos and loot shit and burn shit and just be assholes. I get that. But what it's done, all of these people doing this, are turning the community against the protests because now they're afraid. They're afraid of the protests. If they hear protests nearby and they own a small business, they're afraid of what might happen to their business nearby. So it's just a bad thing for the entire protest as a whole to go on Twitter and encourage the looting and make it sound like it's just something that's supposed to be acceptable. I just don't agree with that because everything that the protest is doing is fucking great, but then the people that are hijacking it and don't even fucking care are taking advantage of it and still getting defended on Twitter, and I don't like that at all. Now, I'm not saying this is an absolute. Not everyone is defending looting, of course. Like, there's a lot of protesters out there actively trying to stop it, you know, putting themselves in front of looters in a building or just outright discouraging it or making sure people know that this is not acceptable, this is not what the protest is about, and that's great. I'm just saying it is still something that is getting defended from time to time on Twitter that I just disagree with, but I want to again reiterate, truly hope that there can be a good positive change and outcome from all of this, and my heart goes out to everyone affected and everyone involved, wishing the absolute best from this situation. Hopefully by the end of everything here we'll be a lot closer as a nation and won't be as divided. And yeah, that's really about it. So yeah. Call of Duty, it's a shit franchise with a shittier community, and now they've helped murder an innocent man. So this is a story I've been following since the first reports of a suspected death via swatting were reported on, and I'm sure some of you have already heard it by now, but it's something I want to talk about. So this sad story goes, 2 man-children named Vaporize and Mir Cole, and I know upon hearing these abysmal names you asked yourself, are these 8-year-olds that this story is about? No, these are not 8-year-olds that those names belong to. Those names belong to adults. And these 2 adults had a Call of Duty wager match for $1.50. They were really throwing the wood down that night, high stakes gambling, and they lost the match. They were on the same team and they got mad at each other and they blamed each other for the loss and they started going at it. No, my dick's 3 inches hard, so I have the bigger penis. Who cares if you have the bigger penis? A girl laughed at me once, and then eventually it escalates to the point where Vaporizer gets in contact with an even bigger virgin, the chief virgin. His name is Swatistic, and he had been known for swatting things like MLG matches and shit. Just really sad, pathetic stuff. And this human catheter did an interview on YouTube talking about this. I still watched it because I wanted to hear what a swatter sounded like, and it's exactly like what you'd expect, just as pathetic as you'd imagine.
Right. Do you take any responsibility for what happened?
The argument can be made that the police would have never shut up if I didn't make the call. However, I don't believe that I'm the only guilty party involved in this whole incident, considering I was contacted and, you know, almost instructed to SWAT and taunted to SWAT an address. I mean, of course, if you want to, I mean, you could say that, of course, I was involved. However, I mean, other people were involved. I mean, yeah, the call was made by me, but as far as the whole incident, you could point the finger at numerous people.
It's amazing how you can actually hear the back acne in this kid's voice. And the way he talks, it's like he took pages right out of the Tumblr experts playbook, like the fucking incel section of Tumblr who gives advice on what to do when faced with authorities. He just, allegedly, well, I guess you could look at it that way. Well, one could say I had access to, I mean, due to multiple interpretations, there's a multitude of factors at play. I suppose you could, deduce that I pushed him into the shark-infested waters, but it was the shark that killed him, not me. And it's sad that I have to compare sharks to cops, because sharks aren't even out for as much blood as cops are. But anyway, once Vaporize gets in contact with Swatistic, they attempt to dox and swat Miracle, but Miracle, in an attempt to prove that his cock is 3 inches hard, reaches out to Swatistic and says, "Here's my address, swat me, pussy boy," and here's the tweet. So he does, he swats that address, but Miracle, being the brave man he is, gives an address that isn't his, belongs to an innocent man who gets killed by the cops when they show up. In his interview with Keemstar, the kid shows no remorse at all, nor does he take any responsibility, and passes the blame off onto the other two kids, and I do agree, they have a big part to play in this. I think all three of them should have the same sentence, which is life in prison, because they contribute absolutely nothing to society. They fucking have Call of Duty wager matches for $1.50 and then kill an innocent man over it. What good do they bring to society? They're just downright sociopaths. None of them felt any empathy for what happened. It wasn't just the kid who actually called the SWAT. Miracle, the one who gave that address, was laughing about it on Twitter. Vaporizer is not to be heard from. They all deleted their accounts and shit. But I really don't think it can be that difficult to find out who these three dudes are. The fucking NSA can watch me jerk off in the middle of my kitchen through my coffee maker. How can they not find who owns these horrible Twitter accounts with these horrible fucking names? And now I'd like to talk directly to the people who say, well, it's not their fault, it's the cop who killed him's fault. No, it's definitely their fault. That wouldn't have happened if they didn't call the police. But the police are also very much to blame here. So, according to the family, what happened is the police were banging on the door, the husband opens the door and is immediately shot by a cop. Immediately shot. Why the fuck is he immediately shot? You go there because it's a reported hostage situation. I understand it's very high tension, you're nervous, you're on edge. But you knock on the door and someone opens the door. That's the expected response. Why do you panic and shoot him? It's like a pizza man going to my door because I ordered pizza. He knocks on my door, I open the door, and he fucking blasts me with a shotgun because he wasn't expecting me to open the door. What the fuck were the cops expecting? Did they think he was gonna bust through the second floor window like Action Man and land on the ground and turn himself in? Why did they freak out because he opened the door? I don't get that response at all. Everyone's like, oh, I feel so sorry for the cop. He's the real victim here. He's gonna have to live with that for the rest of his life. No, the cop is not the real fucking victim here. The real victim is the man who got killed and his family that he leaves behind now. I feel absolutely nothing for that cop except hatred. He's either A, the most untrained officer on the force, and the force benefits from him not being there, or B, just a bloodthirsty menace. Now, if it's the former, what kind of training do the SWAT go through? They're supposed to be the elite. They're supposed to be the best of the best. But apparently they're all so fucking afraid of their own shadow. What kind of training do they get? I have to know. Do they just put the fear of God in them? They train them like they're fucking dogs. Oh, if you hear a loud sound, just fucking shoot at it. You don't want to take any risks. No matter what happens, if you hear anything, if you see anything, shoot it. That's the only way to deal with problems. They just have to be so poorly trained. And the way they handle the situation after they kill the husband is just as bad. So they go there because it's a reported hostage situation. They kill the man who I guess they immediately assumed was the man who took the hostages. He opened the door, he must have the hostages. Fucking blast him. Okay, he's down. Now they have the hostages left. And what do? They make the hostages walk over the corpse and then handcuff them. What fucking heroes, huh? That's how you're trained to handle a hostage situation. You handcuff the hostage after making them walk over a dead body? Amazing. Absolutely amazing. SWAT is a fucking joke. An absolute fucking joke. I made this video when the story was still fresh and all the details weren't fully out there, and now I just watched an interview with the mother of the son who was killed by the police, and she says there was no knocking on the door. He heard noises, so opened the door and was gunned down. They weren't giving him any warnings or anything, they just killed him the second he opened the door. Which doesn't exactly make it any better for the police side of the story. I'm not going to take out the part of the video with the knocking on the door portion because there still is some sources claiming they did knock on the door and then killed him when he opened it. So really neither one of them looks better for the police. Him opening the door while they, didn't give him any warnings or anything and killing him, that's just as bad. I don't know what the fuck they thought he was doing, opening the door to charge them with riding on horseback or something. It's still a ridiculous scenario that doesn't warrant them gunning him down in any cases. Also, more breaking news as I was rendering this video out, the swatter has been arrested. Here's his picture. This is him. Looking like a man you'd find at your local card shop playing Yu-Gi-Oh! With the children. And now I'm happy to say, Tyler joins the Hall of Fame of swatters with Robert McDade and Zachary Lee, who are behind bars for many years. It's a fantastic conclusion, really. But this shouldn't be where the story ends. Miracle and Vaporize and the cop need to face repercussions for this event. This whole thing wouldn't have happened without Miracle and Vaporize coming together and forming the perfect storm of tiny penis and lack of testosterone. And if Tyler's going to jail, those two should also be going to jail. Vaporize will likely get raperized in there, and it'd be a miracle if the other guy's asshole wasn't stretched 2 feet. The cop also needs to be joining them with some more than just a paid vacation. There needs to be more done here. Justice hasn't been served entirely, but it's a great fucking start. And I just want to address this because I already know it's going to come up in the comments, people calling me just a cop hater, one of those fuck all cops kind of people. I'm not. I don't hate all cops. There's good and bad cops, I know that, but there's a lot of bad cops, a lot of them going around right now. Just take, for example, the fucking Simon Says killer from not too long ago, who just executed a man who was following his absurd instructions, making him do everything shy of an interpretive dance and write him a book report, and then he kills him. It's fucking sickening, and I think this is another example of a bad cop. I know we don't have all the details surrounding what happened here, but I don't think under any circumstances would a man opening a door warrant being gunned down in cold blood. Unless he walked out of that front door with a nuclear bomb strapped to his chest, I don't see why you executed him like that for no fucking reason with no warnings. It's just disgusting. This is a bad cop. There's a lot of bad cops, but I don't hate all cops. Obviously not all cops are bad. But yeah, I mean, that's this whole story, and I'm super glad the swatter was caught, and we can only hope that justice is served for the other 3 that were involved in this tragedy. So yeah, that's it. See ya.